today we're going to look at Horizon apps. Okay, so if we quickly look at the worksheet, probably it will give you a better idea of how this is going to work, and secondly, how it relates to your assessment one. Okay, so if you remember, as part of your assessment one, you had to deploy some apps. So that's what we're really talking about. Okay, so build. Let's see if it's here. Let's open that up as well. All right, so it's here, and then where's my worksheet? All right, so this worksheet, let's open. All right, so what am I referring to? First of all, let's get on with the application virtualization. So basically demonstrate it working. So delivered, so basically as a demonstration, we want to package the Chrome browser. So that's just an example, right? So it's not a big deal. It's just, it represents any software. It's just an example of the software. It's small, it's not too hard to deploy. And we want to actually publish it, and we want to deliver it to only to the sales department users. And we want to verify that the virtual machines can run them, okay? So the way we're gonna do it is through this worksheet that we're talking about today. So if we actually look at the picture, the diagram, you can see there is gonna be a little bit of a update. You can see we've got a whole heap of virtual machines plus the virtual machines inside of ESXi, but you'll see that there is also this RDSH1 virtual machine, and that stands for Remote Desktop Services Host. Okay, so what we're going to do is there's a couple of ways of delivering apps, and the easiest one without the additional enterprise license is through this hosted apps. Okay, so what does that mean? It means basically on this RDSH1, we're going to install the software that we want to deploy. Okay, and we're going to install it as a remote desktop services software. Okay, deploy software. What does that mean? It's meant for remote users to execute, not for the local user. Okay, do you understand that, Roman? It's like instead of, but elsewhere. Yes, exactly. That's the right way to think about it. Because at the end of the day, this whole thing is a private cloud. Okay, so instead of actually having the apps installed onto the individual virtual machines, we're going to have these specific apps installed on the remote desktop host. Okay, so remote desktop service host. So if you think about it, remember how we built that golden template virtual machine instant clone master, right? It's all the standard software is in there. Okay, so if you want Office, you want whatever, you put it all in there. The standard operating environment is all in there. So all the apps that most people use. Okay, so any additional apps that we want, we're actually going to deploy through this method. We're going to install on the remote desktop service host, and we're going to install it as a remote desktop hosted application. And then when we actually launch our instant clones, we'll be actually able to use the web browser client and launch the software from inside the virtual machine. Okay, so basically this is only for software that's not part of the standard operating environment, the standard software. Yeah.
And inside the browser we have like the operating system, and inside that operating system we have another browser with
yeah, basically. Okay. So yeah, that's a very complicated, I know, but basically you'll see we'll have the web, so the Horizon client stored on our physical desktop, and we launch that to create a virtual machine, to get a console to a virtual machine, and inside, and eventually when you do the assignment, inside of there, you will launch the browser that connects to the basically the Horizon, and then you launch the software in there. Okay, but for us, because this is very stressful as far as loss of hardware, right? And trust me, now we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 virtual machines, right? It's going to be very stressful. Okay. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where you knew that we're going to be very, very stressful. So what we end up doing is, instead of actually testing it inside the virtual machine, so when we do it for your assignment, you basically will show me just working inside the virtual the instant clone. But for this, for just the testing, you'll see that we'll be using the Horizon client. We're logging in. We've got the instant clone, but we also have these apps that we're using, for example. And when we launch, it will run. They will be hosted on the remote desktop service host. Okay, you get me, Roman?
So in our case,
yeah.
How is it going to be different from like a real life
scenario? Okay, so real life scenario, obviously we've got a lot more powerful host. Okay. Okay, and obviously our host, which is our physical computer, is not that powerful. So in real life, these instead of actually launching it on the physical machine, we'll be launching it inside the virtual machine, which is what you do. Okay, and these are for any additional apps that's beyond the standard operating environment. All the standard ones are installed on the instant clone as a general template, but these are for any additional software that is beyond the standard.
Okay, and how do you choose like which software apps installed on the?
Oh well, basically yeah. So that's what I'm saying about the standard operating environment, right? Okay, what is standard across everyone? If it's standard across everyone, you put it on the instant clone. If it's something that's only a few people need it, then we put it as like this, and then we create what's called the entitlements and only give it to the users that need it. You get me? Okay, I know it's complicated. I know it's very complicated, but you can see that again, there's 22 pages of instructions, and we're creating a brand new server now, and we're adding all these things in, and we are basically installing the Horizon agent into the thing, and then we're gonna afterwards. So this is part of the process. Afterwards, we're gonna actually then create what's called a server farm. Okay, so this is a remote desktop host service farm. And then we're going to actually, from there, deploy so we called it that. Then we're going to create what's called an application pool. And we're going to create from the installed applications, and the installed applications are going to be VLC as our example. And additionally to that, we're going to also select the Windows Media Player as sort of an additional software. So okay, sorry, this should be bolded. I don't know what happened there. Okay, just noticed that anyway, so I'll just save that. And basically, we're going to put in the category, and then afterwards, we're going to create what's called entitlements, which means we select which users or which group of users get this software. So like I said, I know VLC is free, but let's say you've got this software that costs you $100 per license. And instead of giving it to everyone as part of standard operating environment, you got 200 people, then you pay for 200 licenses, right? That could be very costly. So instead of doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to deploy as a hosted app in an application pool like I've just shown you. And obviously this will make a lot more sense when you work through it, okay? And basically when we select this GG group, sales users group, they will, so again, this is not required. They will, I just noticed there's some gaps in here for no reason. So I might just insert a page break here anyway. Then once they actually log in with the right user account, then they will have these entitlements ready to go for them. Yep.
In this case, how many licenses do you need to buy?
Well, in this case, obviously, depending on the group. Okay.
So in the end, it depends on the number of the users.
Yeah, definitely. So, for example, if we selected just for the sales group, right? We don't have to select groups. Groups is just easy. All right, we can select individual users as well. So you can see here, it can be users, could be groups. We just use groups because it's easier And general rule is you use groups than individual users, right?
Yeah.
Let's say it's a $200,000 license, okay? And you only want 2 users to use it, then I would probably make a small group and even put them in there. Yep.
You can't make it like buy one license and make like 10 users to use it. You need to.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. Okay. All right. So I'm trying to tell you that only the people from the sales department. You'll literally go count how many people in the sales department. Okay, and then you buy enough licenses for people in the sales department. This software is not going to care about your license. Do you understand? This software doesn't. This methodology doesn't care about your license. Your license is a separate issue. If you know you got 10 sales users, and you know that this software is per license, per person license, right? You would go out and buy 10 licenses for this software, and you'll configure the entitlement so it's only sales users that get them. So even if you've got 200 people in your company, only the sales users will get this license, get this software. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but is there a way for the vendor to check?
Yeah, definitely, because obviously, usually the vendor, the license itself, once it's launched, they would probably need an account usually. Okay, so for example, you'll look at your Office 365. Besides launching it, you have to log in with an account, don't you?
Yeah.
So obviously, that's beyond the scope of this subject as well. But obviously, the vendor will have the vendor, however they check. But you know that here, you can see I'm actually signed in for Office 365, I'm signed in with this guy. And with Adobe Acrobat, you can see, let's say I can see where usually let's open this one. Usually I'm using the free trial, but always open yes. And then if I don't want to use the free trial, I usually sign in with someone. Let's have a look. Right. I think there is usually they always prompt me to sign in or sign out of other computers, right?
Yeah, I do this, but
yeah,
it works with the apps which uses like license check over the internet.
Yeah.
What about like standalone?
Well, it's standalone apps.
Like buy one.
Yeah. So if it's standalone apps, obviously, if the vendor has no way of checking, at the end of the day, it's just like you. If you install on physical computers, how are you gonna make sure that you don't break the license? It's because basically, when you do break the license agreement and they discover it, then you're in big trouble. You get fined quite a lot. Yeah. So it's the same idea. You know what I mean? So if the vendor doesn't have a facility for checking how many instances you've got, then that's the same for physical environment or virtual environment, isn't it? Okay, so it doesn't matter. But I'm talking about from a point of view of you knowing that this is the amount of licenses you need and using the entitlements to only give it to people that needs the licenses. You get me?
Yeah.
So this is not a subject about how does a vendor check how many licenses you have, okay? Okay, so if you're going to go down that track, there's what if this, what if you have completely offline, you never connect to the internet, what if you this and whatever, but this is not about that, okay? So you got to understand this is not about that. You have the same problems with that situation, whether it's physical or virtual, but that's just general IT. Okay, so this is not about this. This is just saying that with this Horizon apps, we can deploy it in this manner and we can control who gets the apps to help you facilitate compliance with your license agreements. Okay, okay. So how you want to use that personally and how much risk you want to take for your company, because if you do get caught in the situation of using too many licenses in the event where you don't have, then that's just a curiosity. Yeah, so this thing is not responsible about your license compliance. It just gives you a way to allocate software to users, and that should be combined with anything else you might use in the environment as well. Okay, so just for me, Roman, can you click on this link here? Tell me if it works or not for you. This assignment 2, just that first link, URL link. Because obviously, if I click on it, it works for me, but I'm a lecturer. But another student has told me that it doesn't work for them, so I want you to test for me. I thought you did work for you last time. Yeah. Just click on it. All right, so it must be a student lecturer thing, okay? So that's why I've uploaded this second file, and I'll hide this one. Just hide for now. Now, can I get you to click on the same thing for these 3? Is it access denied as well?
No, but now it says a different thing. It says, sorry, this activity is currently hidden.
Oh, is it hidden? So I'm talking about this one here, the strategic plan and the horizon reference reading and the template.
You see, the 2 files. Okay, yeah. No, access denied. Okay.
So that's the same problem then, okay?
Yeah, activity hidden for the instructions.
For which instruction, sorry? This one?
The first link.
Yeah. Are you talking about this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hidden now, but I'm talking about these 3 now, okay? Yeah. All right, so basically, if that's the case, what I'll do is I'll just download it. And I'll download it because it's a permission issue from our SharePoint, and it's supposed to be okay because it's meant to be from the student repository. But I'm not sure about the issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download and I'm going to re-upload as a normal resource. You know what I mean? Yeah. So bear with me, Roman. You're probably used to me messing around like this now. So bear with me. We're trying to get it right for not just you, for everyone else as well. So sorry about this, but sometimes I don't know it happened because it works for me because I've got different rights to you guys. So as a result, I don't even know that this is happening until someone tells me, and that's why I get you to check, and then I try to give you a fix, and then I make sure that it's okay for you. Okay. All right, so let's add another one so that all the resources are there. And we'll all right, so all right. And now I will move these to the right area. And I will hide these ones for now until I work out what's the permission issue. So now these ones are hopefully are working for you and other students. So let's get into what we have to do today. So we're going to close that one, open that one. No, that's the wrong one. We're going to go here. Going to open again. All right, so it's a relatively short topic. So like I said, oops, wrong one, switch display. right, so bear with me. Someone's messed with this display settings on this computer, so let's get rid of these. Identify, this is 2. No. All right, so I'm going to stop the screen sharing. It's a little bit annoying in the sense that whoever changed the settings here is a little bit annoying. Okay, so bear with me for a second. All right, so good. And let's see now. All right, that's better. All right, so today is a bit of a quick one. Like we said in the introduction right at the start, today we're going to look at how we can deliver apps to the user from a remote desktop service host or server farm that Horizon calls it. All right, so basically, like I said, these are apps that are not part of the standard build. These are apps that are additional on top of what's standard across the whole company. So it's not part of the standard operating environment. So today we'll be looking at some design considerations. We'll be building and configuring the remote desktop service host environment, and we'll be installing applications for Horizon app delivery, and then delivering those apps to users with entitlements. All right, so high-level Horizon apps, high-level architecture. So delivering apps with Horizon apps requires minimal changes to existing infrastructure. Okay, so main addition is that we need this Microsoft Remote Desktop Service Host server for application installation. So you saw that in our worksheet, we added an additional virtual machine, which is going to stress our computers out quite a lot more. Okay, and that's why we've sort of been compromising, in a sense, Roman. We've been compromising in what we can do in the computers. Okay. In the future, I was thinking, you know, how there's not many students at the diploma level, and to be honest, physically, there's lots of computers in here, isn't there? So maybe in the future, instead of actually, but then we're constrained by what's on the physical network. In the future, maybe we'll sort of make it as a distributed system in the sense that we'll have the various virtual machines running on different physical machines, and then we can have more powerful environments. But then again, that may not be good for external students. So someone who's studying externally may not have access to a classroom of computers like we have here. They might only have one physical desktop or laptop. But, so it's always a balancing game in my head. How do I make sure it works in class? And how can I make sure it reflects the real environment that someone's going to work in? And the honest answer is no one's going to work in a real environment where there's only one physical machine. And also my balancing act is how's it going to work for external students as well. So I'm doing what we think we can do at with a fairly decent, reasonable computer. But that's not to say that everyone in the whole world is going to have this decent, reasonable computer at their home. So obviously we have to just push through. Okay. So the remote desktop service host, or RDSH server, becomes the primary resource for app delivery for the end users. We install the Horizon agent. If you remember, agent is additional software that gets installed onto the virtual machine, virtual desktop, or in this case, the RDSH server, which allows us to use the Horizon server to control them, to monitor them, to know they exist, and to use them when it's appropriate. Because the agent is that software that's communicating with the Horizon server and sort of communicating back and forth and reporting back and so forth. So the Horizon agent on the remote desktop service host server enables communication with the connection server. Connection service allows for the creation of what's called a remote desktop service farm. Okay, obviously as the name suggests, in a real life environment, instead of having one host as this RDHS server, what's the RDHSH server, we could have many. Again, that one that we've got in our lab could represent many physical or virtualized servers. Okay, we've chosen to put it into VMware Workstation, but reality is if we got a powerful enough private cloud, which is all the additional ESXi servers and so forth, we can put these RDH SH as virtualized servers as well, like we've learned in the previous subject. Connection servers allow the creation of the server farms. Applications are grouped into what's called application pools, and you'll see that in your worksheet. And basically, application pools displays the applications that the users are entitled to run. It's similar to a desktop pool, but it's focused on the application delivery. So we match up the desktop pool and the application pool, and we allocate to users, and they get both the desktops, instant clone desktops, and they get these applications, and they can launch it inside the application. The instant clone virtual machines. Or you know what? To be honest, if you have a device, let's say iPhone, but you've got software that you want to run, you don't have to run it inside an instant clone either. You can actually just launch it from any device, because at the end of the day, it's not running on that device, is it? It's running on that server farm. Okay, so that's sort of a bit unusual, isn't it? It's blowing people's minds a little bit here, in the sense that it's not running on the device you're using it from. It's running on somewhere else, and you are just interacting with it, a bit like everything we've been doing. So there you go. This is your end device. Okay, that could be a desktop, laptop, phone, whatever. As long as it's got internet access or network access, we use the Active Directory for authentication, all that kind of stuff that we're used to. We use the display protocols, whether that's that VMware Blast that we're talking about. We connect to the Horizon clients, and then the Horizon clients will give us our instant clone desktops as well as these application pools. But these application pools are running on these RDHS server farms. And these applications can be directly installed onto these RDSH farms, or they could be app volumes, which are attached to the RDHS SH farms, which can be launched as packages. But at the end of the day, they're on these remote desktop service host farms. Okay, so users all they have to do is when they open up the browser or the client, wherever they might be, they'll see all the applications they have entitlements for. All they have to do is double click on the icon that represents the application they want to use, and then they will use the display protocol, like I said, VMware Blast, and then they will launch it. But the funny thing is they're running on these server farms, like I said, but they can also allow them to redirect. Let's say you need to open a file, like we'll be using VLC today. If we want to open up VLC, that's fine, but what if we want to play some media? Yeah, there's a media player, right? What if the media is actually on this local device? Okay, or obviously if it's on a network server, that's pretty obvious. But if it's on a network, if it's on a local device, our local file system can be redirected here as well, and we can browse our local device that we're using to connect to the thing. So we're sort of using local files with this remote application. Some design considerations. So the remote desktop service host farm and application delivery with Horizon farms are a group of these remote desktop service host servers and deliver a shared set of applications to users. Application pools are created from these farms, allowing users to select and access the different apps. When we're architecting or designing the RDHS host servers, avoid overcommitting virtual CPUs to physical CPUs to prevent performance issues. So what does that mean? Well, if this is a virtual machine, if we only have 4 CPU cores on the physical machine, right? We shouldn't give 4 CPU core virtual CPUs to this host, because that means we have to wait for all the CPU cores on the physical host to be free in order to have a sort of a clock, a chance to execute the instructions from the RDSH host. So that'll actually cause performance issues. What about architecting the virtual machines? Higher consolidation levels can be achieved by over allocating virtual CPUs to physical cores. For the RDSH servers, higher user allocation per core is possible, but should be managed to avoid any poor performance. So we've got the VDIs, which are the users. We've got the users, which are your users, and then we can actually access the remote desktop service host. And we can use it per desktop, or like I said, use it directly. So this is with the remote desktop service host. It's not just for the VDI environment. It could be for the physical non-VDI environment as well, because you probably heard of Microsoft Remote Desktop Services, right? It's similar to remote desktop in the sense that in remote desktop is for remote administration, but remote desktop services is allowing us to publish apps which is on the server and every user running it from their endpoints as a separate instance. So multiple instances on the server. Some more design considerations. Memory allocation. Avoid memory over allocation in your design. Okay. So we're used to the fact that we're limited RAM. So obviously, if you over allocate, then if it's not enough RAM, then it's going to suffer from poor performance. Application deployment. So this is what we were having that conversation. Decide if the apps will be installed in a single server farm or multiple server farm. And obviously, we discussed whether it's a standard app or a additional app. If it's a standard app that everyone in the whole organization should have, then it should be part of that instant clone template. Okay, but if it's just some additional apps that only some people need and not everyone needs, we can use this kind of deployment to manage who gets it and who doesn't get it. Resource planning. Account for CPU, memory, and disk resources based on app workload requirements. So obviously that's something that for us is something that's out of the window right now because we're only using the one physical machine. But reality is you want to make sure everyone has a good experience, don't you? If you don't have enough CPU, memory, disk, and whatever resource, then it's not going to be a good thing. So we need to make sure that our physical components are up to meeting the delivery of all of these things, including the instant clone, and including the applications to our end users. Okay. Additional consideration, plan for the number of PC over IP or BLAST extreme connections needed for user sessions. So how many connections are we thinking of at the same time? Obviously, if we only get 5, it's a totally different story than if we're expecting 100, right? So obviously, like I said, could be a server farm. So it doesn't have to be the one single server like we have in our worksheet. It could be across multiple servers. So host Horizon client session management. So basically how many connections? User access. The Horizon client displays the available resource to the end users, each as a separate session. So basically, we've got the desktop pool, and when we connect with the client, we can see our instant desktop, but then we can see the different apps that we got allocation for. Okay. Multiple sessions, user can connect to a virtual desktop and launch apps from a different server farm. And so in this example, I could be connecting to the desktop. I could be launching these apps separately as well, or I could be launching it inside the desktops. Okay. So environmental sizing. Okay. So understand the maximum number of connections you need. Getting that right, understanding that. And what's the number of connections supported by the connection server? If user accesses multiple resources simultaneously, the number of supported users decrease proportionally. So what is that saying? If they're accessing multiple instances, then the number of supported users would be decreased because each user is having 2 or 3 or 4 connections. That's equivalent to 4 users having the one connection, isn't it? So it's just maths, isn't it? All right, example, a server with 4 cores and 64 gigs of RAM can support 150 sessions. That's pretty good. Okay, that's pretty good. That's just basically a server farm with those numbers. Next step, setting up configuring the RDS role in the Horizon app environment. So installing and configuring the apps. So app installation options in Horizon apps. You got option 1. You can directly install the apps onto the remote desktop service host server. That's what we'll do. Okay, that's what we're going to do now. Our our environment because we're limited. But option 2 is probably better. We can actually create what's called a stateless server farm. You're probably thinking, what does he mean by that?
Yeah.
So today, what we're going to do, we're going to install a RDSH server by itself. It's not in the vSphere environment, but can be, right? But you know how we created the template for the instant clone desktops, right? We could also create what's called instant clone, not instant clone, but the stateless server farms is essentially the same as the instant clone templates for the desktops, but in these case, they would be templates for these server, these RDSH servers. Okay, so I'm not sure if you fully understand, but yeah, so instead of like having one dedicated RDSH or two dedicated RDSH, we just create this template, and the more we need, the more we start. The more we need, the more we start. Yeah, so that's the idea. Okay, so that's option 2, because that means it can be scalable. If we need 1, we start 1. If we need 10, we'll start 10. But basically, we chose option 1 in our lab to show you how it's done. But if you want to combine what we did with the instant clone process for the desktops, it's pretty much the same way, but with the servers instead. Okay. We can also use VMware app volumes to attach layers of apps dynamically. So dynamically means it can be changing. We can install App Manager Agent onto the RDSH for communication with the App Volume Manager and application assignment. So the next step is to configure the RDS role. So basically, we create and configure RDS role. That's our first step. Install the apps that's delivered on the remote desktop service, or attach the app volume agent on here. We're going to go with this one because, like I said, in our labs, I have to make these choices of what can be done in the lab. So I've chosen this alternative. We install the agents. You'll see that our worksheet pretty much goes in this method. Then we configure the Horizon app farm, configure the Horizon app volume, and then configure the entitlement, which assigns the app to the end users. That's basically the whole gist of our worksheet. Build and configure the RDSH environment. So we install the remote desktop service as a server role, but we choose this option. Usually we choose this option, don't we? So in this case, we're going to choose this option. All right, so basically after you've installed it, we can just test that this is working, okay? This will not work straight away on your physical machine. Why is that? Because you're basically the certificate that's created as part of this automatic process, the whole wizard process, is problematic. So I'll just quickly point you out to the worksheet. So basically, so here, here. So we have to update the self-signed certificate by opening up a PowerShell. We enter this command, and we're going to set it for 10 years. So basically, that creates a new certificate. And then we actually go here. It's delivered through a web portal. So a lot of these things is using HTTPS. And basically, we just tell it to use this new certificate that we created instead of the original certificate. All right. So basically, that's the problem. It will not work straight away because the way it creates a certificate is problematic. But we have a fix here. Okay. So just be conscious of that, Roman. And you're probably wondering why are we needing to do these extra steps? Because by default, it will not work. All right. So by default, it will not work, and that's why we have to do it. But when we do that certificate, we'll log in. So basically, we'll get this. We'll log in as the administrator, and we'll see some basically default apps that's on the server already that we can launch from the network, and that's just seeing that this is going to work or not. Okay. So no other purpose. Obviously, everyone's got Calculator, Paint, and WordPad. This is not part of our apps that we're going to deploy. necessarily, but this is just showing that we can run these apps remotely from another computer on the remote desktop service host. Then we install the apps we do want. Okay, this, like I said, this is the apps that you are not part of your standard operating environment. These are the apps that are additionally added, and basically this is where we natively install it onto the remote desktop service, and that's the option we've chosen. Application in this native install process, application must be installed via install applications on a remote desktop to support multi-user environments. So there's actually a method of doing this. All right, so this action switches the server to RD install mode for application installation. So you're not just installing it as a normal app, you are actually installing it as a remote desktop install mode, which means it makes it to be multi-session from remote users. After installation, switch the RD to RD execute mode for normal operations for the end user. So again, we go to our worksheet. And basically, if we actually go to the part where we're installing the apps, okay, here. Okay, so we're gonna use this option, install applications for remote desktop service. So this is where we make it into that what's that, RD install mode rather than your normal. Normal, you just double click on the installation and you're done, right? But this process allows it to be installed as a remote desktop service app, which means it allows for multi-sessions connecting from network. We can also use app volumes. App volumes can be delivered using app volume app packages for better scalability, like we discussed before. But obviously, like I said, for this lab, for our virtual environment that we've got, we've made some choices, and obviously this is how I want you to do it for your assignment as well, the way we do in the worksheet. Commands for the RD install mode, we can enter the installation mode, change user to install. We can use the switch execution mode. We can use the change user / execute, and we can check what the current mode is by doing change user / query, just in case you're not sure. All right, app volume delivered apps, app delivery with VMware app volumes. The key concepts are that apps are not installed directly on the RDSH server, like we've been saying. These app volume agent is installed. This is an additional bit of software. Is installed on our RDSH server. It connects these RDSH servers to a virtual hard disk app package to the server, and it makes them appear as if they've been installed onto the server. So it's effectively everything the same, except for you don't go through the installation process. You just attach this virtual hard disk with the apps already installed onto the RDSH. Okay, but that requires the app agent and some additional services that we don't want to necessarily put in our labs. So multi-user installation. So ensure application packages are created using the multi-user installation process, which is compatible with the RDSH. And the final step is to install the Horizon agent onto the RDSH server to enable communication with the Horizon server, because the Horizon server, connection server, is what actually brokers or manages this user's interactivity with these applications. All right, configuring the connection server for Horizon apps. So basically, when we're configuring the server farm for Horizon, initial step is to use the Horizon console to create a server farm. And obviously, it's a lot easier to understand once you've done the worksheet. The server farm, as an overview, is a group of servers that collectively provide the resource needed for the application to deliver. It's like a team. Okay, we can load balancing ensures that users don't know which server they're using it from. Okay, we're not going to do load balancing because we only got one. Okay, but we could, so that they could have a group of servers. They could be connected to any one of them, but in our case, there's only one. Farm creation methods. There's a manual farm creation, which is what we'll use because we only got the one. But there's also automated farm creation, which is pre-configured and a streamlined setup, and that's more to do with that stateless server farms that we're talking about. In this context, a server farm is a group of cluster servers that collectively provide resources. When end users log on and launches an application, they won't be aware of which specific server is delivering it, and the server selection is determined by the load balancing method distributing the resources based on the demand at the time of login. So basically, they'll redirect based on which one is less busy. Okay, so in Horizon, an application pool is a group of applications running on the server, RDHS server. In our lab, we will create an application pool using the apps and resources from the RDSH server that was used to create the server farm. Application pools can be created manually or automatic by selecting the apps from a list of the available apps on the server. So once we install it, it'll become part of the list. And again, let's go to our worksheet and sort of walk you through it. So hopefully this makes sense for you guys when you're watching it, because once we install, like, let's say the VLC, for example, and we will be able to see it in the list. You see there's VLC, there's VLC skins, and there's a whole heap of other stuff that's already part of the apps, the list of apps on the server already. But the more we install, it will just appear on this app, and we get to choose this is one I want to publish to the users or not. Okay. We will use the automatic method in our worksheet. So building a stateless. So this is like what I said. This is where the server farm is like an instant clone. You know what I mean? You got the template, and the more server farm members you need, you just launch another one, a bit like the instant clone desktops. So just a recap for the manual farm, previously discovered building a manual farm with a pre-built RDSH server. That's what we will do in our lab. But with instant clones, RDSH servers can be delivered using the same instant clone technology, similar to the non-persistent virtual desktops that we created before, but for servers. We create a gold image, the server operating system in this case, and configure it with the remote desktop service role. And basically, with that stateless server, we need another one, we launch another one. That becomes part of the domain, and it automatically gets put into the server farm and so forth. So instead of directly installing instead of using direct installation for application delivery, we would just use the app volumes that we discussed, that we can attach a virtual hard disk to the servers and then make those apps that's on that virtual desktop, a virtual hard disk, like applications that can be run on that server. We need to install the app volume agent, which requires, like I said, a few other servers to do it, and attach the application virtual disk files via a virtual machine or machine-based entitlement. We can capture these applications in a multi-user mode on the Windows OS with the server, with the remote desktop server host role. So the benefits of using the stateless, obviously, it's scalable. You can scale up, you can scale down just as easily as you can scale up the instant clones. Applications are automatically attached and available immediately. Farms can be quickly scaled without needing to install apps directly to each server. So the way we're doing it, we have to build a new RDSH server every time, don't we? But with this one, it's easier because it's just like creating the instant desktops every time as well. All right, so that's the end of this presentation, and obviously what I want you to do, Roman and rest of you guys, is to work on the worksheets.